Welcome everybody to the longitudinal ultrasound curriculum. I am thrilled to have you all joining me for the next couple years. I am really hopeful that this will give you a fantastic foundation about how to use point-of-care ultrasound in your clinical careers moving forward. With this video, what I want to get accomplished is to give you a brief overview of how this curriculum is set up so you can be successful within it. I want to give you an introduction to the website that most of the resources are housed out of, and then I want to give you some useful tips about how to get some extra training within the curriculum. Finally, we want to get started, so I want to give you the next steps of what to do to start learning point-of-care ultrasound with me. The curriculum. Before I get too much into the nuts and the bolts, I want to give you a little bit of the background on why I'm structuring it the way it's structured. So there's data out there to suggest that in a session like intern intensive, most people feel really good leaving it, but confidence in their POCUS use and their technical ability to acquire an image falls precipitously. So I wanted to build something that you would have some sort of checkpoints to give you some framework moving forward, to give you some scaffolding. Much in the vein of something like a piano lesson or a golf lesson. And so the way I've designed this is that there's 10 modules covering different organ systems. So there's one module that you're going to go through every 2 months, and each module covers an organ system. I'll show you what this looks like. Built into this are checkpoints in the form of competency assessments, and those are really for you for formative feedback to know that, hey, I'm feeling good with my cardiac scans, but am I actually getting good, and to give you some actual feedback to either focus where you need to work on, or to give you the reassurance that, hey, I'm competent in doing each of these applications. What we're actually going to be covering throughout this curriculum are ultrasound basics, so how to use the knobs, understanding some of the basic physics about it, because that'll help you get better images. Lungs, cardiac, which largely we've already covered those, so that's going to be in the form of a refresher session with me. Then we'll cover advanced cardiac, bladder and kidney ultrasound, free fluid assessment, skin and soft tissue DVT, other vascular stuff, and then procedural ultrasound. The goal is to give you a broad set of applications that you can use to help you problem solve when you have patients in front of you. And these are successful whether you want to be a critical care doctor, a hospitalist, or a primary internist. Okay, so I've talked about modules, so what do they actually look like? They are a combination of homework that you're going to do on your own time, done prior to a session with POCUS faculty. That's a one-on-one session with either myself or Dr. DeVersdahl or Christine Schutzer, where we really give you that foundation about how to do the basic application we're doing. So if we're learning how to do GU ultrasound, that session is going to focus on how to obtain a technical image of the kidneys and the bladder, so that you kind of know what to do moving forward. And then you go off and then you scan on your own. So this requires deliberate practice, so you need to be able to kind of practice some of these things on your own. And if you're struggling, that's when you reach out to the faculty and say, hey, I would really like some help. Can you supervise me, give me feedback, do a little bit of teaching? That's meant to be a brief intervention. It's not meant to get in the way of your clinical care. It's just meant to give you some support moving forward. While you're doing these, I do recommend doing some independent knowledge assessment in the form of test questions or just review of some of the resources, so you have some of that knowledge, the ability to test your knowledge and build that fund of knowledge. And then you move on to the next module. So if you were at doing kidneys that time, then you'd move on to free fluid assessment. And we just work through these every few months. So most of the curriculum is going to be curriculum materials going to be housed under the IMRes PDX website. So I'll click on this and just give you a little bit of an orientation. So under imrespdx.com ultrasound curriculum, is this website that I'm still in the process of building out, but at least gives you has a bunch of resources and gives you some guidance about what you're supposed to be learning. And so there's buttons like Ultrasound Resources, which is a collection of different things that I've found to be useful in my own studies over the past few years, divided into podcast videos, websites, books, etc. There's also a syllabus, and that's going to have like all the videos and core curriculum that's going to be essential to using this curriculum moving forward. So this overview video can be found here, but I've also created a website overview video. There's a instructional document to figure out how to schedule your hands-on sessions while you're on consults, MICU, your wards, etc. And so I recommend you refer that prior to scheduling with me. And then QPath is like impacts for your ultrasound scans, and this is a quick video that kind of covers how to use QPath. I recommend you take a look at that. So let's say we're doing the lung module. What you would do is you click on lung, and the way I recommend you move forward through this is that you click on objectives and say, what am I supposed to know prior to my session with Kevin or the other ultrasound faculty? And so you'd read through these really quickly and say, hey, I'm supposed to know which probe to use, how to do a scan, what lung sliding is, what A lines and B lines are, and how to do a pleural evaluation for a pleural effusion, and what the important findings are. Great. Now you move forward and you say, and this is ski theme, so green circle, blue square for intermediate, and black diamond for advanced. You click on your blue circle since we're just on the beginning stuff. And you'd say, hey, I like book stuff, so I might read Point of Care Ultrasound book by Neelam Soni and read these pages, or I'd look at websites that cover some of the basics for lung ultrasound. Or if I like videos, I could click on some of these hyperlinked videos and go to Jacob Alvila's 5-Minute Sona website and just review B lines or A lines or some of the basics of lung ultrasound. So a lot of it is self-driven about and depends on what type of learner you actually are. And so once you complete that, and let me pull up my PowerPoint again, then you schedule your hands-on training. And so this is done pretty easily. You just send me an email and say, hey, Kevin, I'm available these 3 times. Which one of these works? And I will either set up an appointment with you, or I'll schedule one of my other faculty with you. And you basically will cover the fundamentals of doing that specific ultrasound application. Make sure you have a patient selected so you guys know where you're going prior to this trainer showing up. I prefer nice, skinny, and they don't actually need any pathology because we're just working on the technical aspect. And then you'll do that training, and it's going to last about 1 to 1.5 hours. So then you would do your independent scans. So this is ideally done on your own patients along with your clinical work. So the whole goal is to make this fit into your own clinical work without adding a ton of extra work. You can save your images. I'll show you how to do this when we meet for your first scan. And I'll actually look at the images you're collecting and be able to give you some feedback on those, so you get some sort of guidance even when I'm not at bedside with you. And then, so if everything's going well and you feel like, and I'm giving you good feedback on the independent scans, we don't need to do anything else. But if you're struggling, which I expect you will, that's when you reach out to me and say, hey, I'm on wards right now. I have this patient who I'd love to do a lung ultrasound. Now, can you meet me? And I'll see what my schedule looks like, and I'll probably either get myself or an ultrasound fellow to come to bedside with you and spend 10 to 15 minutes just scanning one of your own patients. These are meant to be brief interventions. They're not meant to be a long period of time, because I know you guys are busy and I don't want this to be a barrier to your use. And these are really there just to provide reinforcement to what you're doing and to fill in any of your weaknesses. Knowledge assessments, I'm still building these out. I'm not going to get too much into this because it's a work in progress. What I will say is there's lots of clinical images out there, ultrasound of the week, the POCUS atlas, that if you're wondering what things look like and wonder what images you're supposed to be capturing, just take a look at those and they'll give you at least some feedback about what images should be looking like. And then the assessment part of this is really important. Again, not meant to be, are you continuing in this program or are you failing? It's more meant to give you feedback and confidence about applying this to your clinical care. So once you've completed a certain amount of scans, you can say, hey, Kevin, I'd really like a competency done at bedside. And so we would schedule a time and we would cover 3 different sets. So for instance, lung, basic, and advanced cardiac. And then I would have an assessment like an OSCE, done on a real patient, where I ask you some questions and you show me how you're doing things. And if you do it well, and I might give you a few pointers and say you're now competent in cardiopulmonary ultrasound, or I might say, hey, you really did good on the lung ultrasound part, but you're struggling with your ability to scan hearts. So these are the 4 things I would focus on, and we can schedule a little extra training as needed for that. So that's the nuts and bolts of things. As you have questions, please reach out to me. Just a few things. Ultrasounds are all over the hospital. So they're in the 5A conference room. There's one in GM1. There's one that typically lives in GM5, but sometimes you can find it in GM4. And then there's one outside the CHS workroom on 4K that you guys are more than welcome to use. My ask from you on this, we're still at the beginning. This is my 2nd year doing this. So I'm going to send you some surveys. I may pull you aside and ask you if I can record a semi-structured interview just to ask about your experience. And the whole goal is to make this better for you and for future internists, internal medicine residents moving forward. Other opportunities. So I highly, highly, highly recommend doing an ultrasound elective with me for a couple weeks, 1 week, whatever time you have available. This just gives you an opportunity to get some repetition in doing ultrasound. So it gives you a chance to do a couple straight hours of scans, so you start to feel even more comfortable in what you're doing. Alternatively, if you have some free time and want to spend some time on the Biomedics ultrasound simulator that we have, email me or email Chrissy and we can get you set up with that to make sure there's availability. It's really, really good to help you practice on non-patients, and it also gives you a great understanding of what the underlying anatomy looks like and how manipulating the probe actually affects the image that's acquired. Finally, if you're looking for a research project, come talk to me. There's a lot that has not been done in internal medicine. I'm always happy to mentor you guys through your own independent projects. So how to be successful? I have 3 goals that I usually give out to people. So 1, make a goal. I usually say try to get 3 to 5 scans done per week. And then try not to spend more than 5 to 10 minutes per scan. So this is, again, meant to be something that's adding to your clinical care and is not meant to be a barrier. If you're saying, gosh, I'm dreading doing an ultrasound because it's going to take me 30 minutes, then you need to be shorter, or you need someone to come to bedside to help you, because it should not be taking that long. If it's taking that long, then that's where you need a little bit of help, and we'll work on that. Be consistent. So this is deliberately practiced. If you don't use it, you lose it. So I want you guys to, as best you can, to try to do it on a daily or a weekly basis at least. Ask for help. I'm here. There's other POCUS faculty that are here. We expect you guys to struggle. That is by and large what everybody has told me and has experienced, and I personally experienced. So I'm expecting that this will be something that's somewhat difficult for you. And the reason why this curriculum exists is to recognize that you will need help with this. So we are available. Where do you go from here? So next steps: review the ultrasound basics on the website. And do about an hour of work just understanding how to use the machine, how the basic physics works. This is really important to understanding how you can optimize your images. Number 2, schedule a brush-up session with me. So this is just going to cover the material that you learned in intern intensive, and hopefully hammer home how do you use basic cardiopulmonary in your management of patients. Log into QPath. So watch the video on the website, and then log in, because you can't actually see your scans until you log in for the first time. So review that video. Number 4, if you have questions, again, don't hesitate to email me. I'm here. I'm expecting there's going to be questions, and so I'd rather just get those answered. You're not bothering me at all. I want to close just with the thing that I'm most excited about. Everybody who has used POCUS and has gotten good with it has had an opportunity to see where it really has changed their clinical management of patients. And so I'm really excited that as you get better at this, that you're going to have your own light bulb moments about times where point-of-care ultrasound helped you take better care of your patients. So I'm thrilled that you will be joining me for the next couple years. Again, please reach out to me with questions. And hopefully I will hear from you all soon about getting your next session scheduled.